everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Blue Beetle #1. This is a new book from DC Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. So this issue, The Scarab War Part 1, is written by Josh Trujillo with art by Adrian Gutierrez, Will Quintana on colors, Lucas Gattoni on letters. Some really cool variants, which we'll see some at the end of the video. So let's get into it. In this issue, Jaime Reyer's graduation is over, but his new life in Palmera City, and as the Blue Beetle has only just begun, with two new beetles to train, Dynasties and Nitida. Jaime has his hands full navigating being a leader. Thankfully, he has Paco and Brenda at his side as they settle in the Palmera City State University. But what lurks in the shadows of the Blue Beetle's new home, and what does it mean for the legacy of Blue Beetle? There's a lot here. First of all, I will say I recommend you check out Graduation Day, that series. I don't think you fully need it to understand everything that's going on, but it's going to provide some context that I think will be really helpful. But the book does a great job. I think Trujillo very efficiently puts you in the driver's seat very quickly with just one page. It lets you know here's everything you need to know on a high level. But I think if you want to get some more of the references and stuff, you definitely want to check out the previous series. But the book is great. I love Trujillo's dialogue. It really, like, the voice of Jaime really sounds like Jaime. The voice of the Beetle Khadija really also sounds, especially after having watched the movie, like now I have a little voice in my head when I read that character. So yeah, that part's really fun. I love Jaime's relationship with his friends. And I also love the approach of how Jaime handles problems on an everyday basis. Not everything is about like punching and using the armor and the beetle to get out of trouble. Sometimes Jaime is the one that has to step in, which is, I think that's really fun. That's a new aspect of Blue Beetle that probably hasn't been explored as much as it should be. So yeah, to me feels very fun, very authentic. There are two versions. You can read this. You can buy this in English and in Spanish, which is great. But even in the English version, there's little, sometimes the characters speak Spanish because that's what real people do. Sometimes they throw in a few Spanish words or a phrase or something into normal everyday conversation. And you don't even need to translate it. There's no context. Like, you should get it from context of what they're talking about. So I really appreciate the team allowing the readers to capture that via just their experience. If you're out in the street and you hear some teenagers talking and they say a phrase that's in a different language, sometimes you get what they're talking about just from the context of what they're doing. So now let's talk about the art. The art is fantastic. First of all, Gutierrez and Quintana just do a great job on this recap page, capturing the feel of like this old school classic comic books, a little homage to the great Justice League International cover, the classic. Like, these are all pulled from other comics, and it's just very fun to revisit these images. We get the little narration from the Blue Beetle, so there's a difference too in the lettering. So kudos to Gattoni when it comes to whether it's Blue Beetle Ted Cord talking, or Blue Beetle Jaime, or Blue Beetle Khadija or Kajida. Like, there's a difference all the time. So you're never confused about who's talking, which is great. I think that's really fun, especially for new readers, which hopefully this series is bringing in after maybe some people that experienced the movie. The character designs for, like, I had never heard of the Madman, and they just threw me for a loop. This is just such a cool shot, such a fun layout of the characters just kind of dropping in unexpectedly. I love that Ted believes in Jaime so much. Like, he knows that Jaime is ready to go out on his own and be a leader, and that's a big point here, especially now that he's got two new Beetles to train, right? Or at least to lead now. So really fun. I do look forward to seeing more about both of the new characters, Nitida and Dynastis. But for now, I think this is a really fun setup. Of course, there's a lot more to this. The last few pages of this issue are gonna kill you if you're a big Blue Beetle fan. But it's fun. It's interesting. It's entertaining, and it's just everything I want in a Blue Beetle comic, and probably more. maybe even some things I didn't even know I wanted. So yeah, of course we have some incredible variant covers, including one for Hispanic Heritage Month. Some of these books are doing that. Of course, this one is just Jaime because Jaime is Hispanic, so they don't need to find a character like in the Batman series. They had to go get Bane, right? But in this one, they could just do Jaime. So really cool stuff. Hello, everyone. Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Blue Beetle #2. This is a new book from DC Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team. Now, all the preview art I have is actually from the Spanish version of the of the issue. But as you can see, the title is the Scarab War. So this is part 2 of that, written by John Trujillo with art by Adrian Gutierrez, Will Quintana on colors, letters by Lucas Gattoni. Uh, in this issue, face to face with the blood scarab, someone is out there hunting beetles, and after the attack on Ted Cord lands him in the hospital, Jaime is on high alert and ready to fight. But will he be ready when he comes face to face with this blood scarab? First of all, I want to go back to the cover real quick. Uh, the design of the blood scarab and just even like this cape, even this look from behind, it looks amazing. You'll also get to see a really cool variant cover at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. My goodness, what a fun way to introduce this. Of course, there's really high stakes, very emotional stuff, because Ted Cord, I feel like Ted Cord is one of those characters that even if you're not like, even if he's not your favorite, like you're still pretty like rooting for. Like he's a very likable character, and I think also the characters within the world of DC are also very fond of Ted Cord. Like he just feels like he's one of the, he's one of the good guys. So that definitely comes across here. So let's take a look at some of the preview art here. We get to see, first of all, Ted Cord. Luckily, I thought he was dead after last issue. Like really, I thought that was going to happen. As you can, then as I mentioned, this is the Spanish version of the, but the book is both available in English and Spanish. So yeah, you can see here some of the members of the JLI who are friends of Ted, keeping him company, visiting. I love the way Gutierrez has not only the way he draws the characters in this issue, but just how we see Jaime just engulfed in shadows, where really demonstrates how he's feeling about the whole situation in that first page. Then even when we go outside, and of course, Ice is the one that kind of has to go out and talk to him, because out of this group, there's really no one better to actually go talk to Jaime to see how he's doing. So they have a very nice conversation, but Jaime feels very guilty about everything, and he's also wondering, where is Ted's sister? And that's kind of where we end up. So the pacing of the issue is very well done. I think I really love how quickly we're moving through some of these things to really get caught up and get into this cool story, right? So we get to see Victoria Court here as well. She's also checking out what happened to Ted. She's got a new assistant, of course, and just, yeah, I love the art. This building looks insane. This Estrella Plaza looks so cool. Just, I love the color palette that is chosen for this. Yeah, really cool stuff. I really like when Gutierrez has the characters like this that are just, the outline where everything else in the background. It just really, it gives a nice perspective to the shot. So really cool stuff. And as I mentioned, there's a really, just really fun coverage for this issue. I'm really enjoying this. I love how dire the situation feels every time the blood scarab shows up. I want to know more about the motivations of this character and what's going on. Like, can any of the other scarabs even do anything about it, right? It's not just Jaime now. He's responsible. There's people that he's watching out for. He's also bringing into the team. There are these aliens that are also stuck on Earth. Like, they're kind of caught up in the middle of everything. So yeah, just a lot of like pretty high stakes for the people that we're following in this book. So really enjoying this. Josh Trujillo once again really nailing it with this story for Blue Beetle. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Blue Beetle number 3. This is part 3 of the Scarab War. First of all, I love this cover. I love the video game feel of it, introducing kind of a new character or a recurring character from the game that we hadn't really seen as part of the series. I love the designs of the Beetles in here. But let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Josh Trujillo, with art by Adrian Gutierrez, Gil Quintana on colors, letters by Lucas Gattoni. As I mentioned, this is part 3 of the Scarab War. In this issue, explore the secret history of Kajida. After the recent attack, Jaime returns to the one person he knows who can decipher the mystical runes left by the Blood Scarab, Tracy 13. So if you're not very familiar, there's probably some books you can read to figure out who Tracy 13 is. But I think the team is very good at just kind of bringing you up to speed with a lot of this stuff. Now, can these X's work together and piece together the secret history of Kajida? Uh, well, let's get into it. Uh, I am really enjoying this arc. As much as I enjoyed Graduation Day, this feels like the team just has leveled up on like all fronts. And it makes sense because Graduation Day was kind of a reintroduction, whereas in this we are already familiar with the characters. We have a world that's been built out previously, and now we can really explore the mythology, all the characters around Blue Beetle, and I think Trujillo really captures a fun voice for Jaime, but also the people around him, including Tracy 13, who shows up in this issue. Um, Although we don't see much of the Blood Scarab in this one, I think it's still really fun and very interesting. All the ways that Jaime will go to, like all the lengths that he will go to, even revisiting, like calling his ex and seeking out help. We also have some really cool cameos that you'll see in some of the preview pages. So let's take a look at some of the preview art because Gutierrez's art is amazing. I love the style. I love the way he chooses to display panels. I love the way that we see here just how these very dynamic movements. I also wonder how we pick who we can populate here in the Oblivion War. We see Detective Chip, we see Frankenstein, of course we see Deadman over there, who's had quite a year. We see the Blue Devil as well, Blue Demon, and of course Madame Xanadu, who's there really to help. So yeah, this book, as you can see, it drops enough hints as to like this is who all these people are. And then also on the other side, we see Starfire going to check in on. I love that as an alien herself, she goes in to check on other aliens that are taking refuge on Earth. I think that's really cool, and I just love the way that everyone does address that she is space royalty. I think that's really fun. I also love the way Gutierrez and Quintana do Firestar's yeah, her hair, Corey's hair, just big, long, flowing locks all over the place. That's very cool. I really enjoyed this issue. We are at a great point. We get to see a lot of really cool history, a lot of background on all the characters, and we need to learn and understand what's going on. I think there's a lot more than meets the eye just based on what based on this chapter, based on some of the variant covers. Maybe we are getting a few hints of what's to come in the future. I would love to see a large team of different colored beetles kind of come into play and team up. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. All these scarabs, they're fighting now, but maybe they'll be forced to come together to fight a larger threat. I think that's a really fun trope to explore. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Blue Beetle number 4. The Scarab War continues. So let's take a look at the credits for this issue. Of course, we have writer Josh Trujillo with art by Adrian Gutierrez, Will Quintana and Nick Filardi on colors, and Lucas Gattoni on letters. Beautiful cover by Gutierrez and Guerrero, as well as some other variant covers that you'll be able to see at the end of the video. So yeah, the Scarab War continues. Look, there's going to be a lot of reveal in this issue. I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to spoil anything. I want you guys to read the book. But let me give you a quick synopsis here. In this issue, the Blood Scarab meets Jaime Reyes. Things start to come together after Jaime's recent trip to the tomb of the pharaoh Ka-If Re, as we saw in the last issue. The place where Dan Garrett originally found Kaji, the beetle, the scarab. So, what does the blood scarab need Kaji for, and what does this mean for Jaime Reyes? Uh, this has been such a fun story of like Jaime trying to balance out dealing with what happened to Ted at the beginning of the book, dealing with all the other people that he has to mentor, that he has to help. There's a lot of responsibility on Jaime's shoulder. And on top of that, we have this new scarab that looks to be out for blood. And Jaime is just trying to do his best to keep it together. Luckily, he has a great support team that, the creative team has given him, and the community that he's kind of built around them. This book is definitely a lot about that, but it's also a lot about just really fun superhero shenanigans. Seeing Victoria Court is really fun. I think she's a great addition to. I don't think she's the main. She's really not the villain of the story, as she's not as antagonistic as Victoria Court was in the film. But she's definitely not somebody that is rooting for the Blue Beetle to succeed, and also has a very interesting relationship with Jaime. Um, but I love it. I love seeing all that. It's incredible to me how the team manages to just pack all that stuff in these 22 pages of an issue. All that, including the beautiful art, which like Gutierrez and the coloring team are just knocking it out of the park. I love this how ridiculous and ludicrous is that Victoria Court would have a flamethrower in her office, but of course she would, and just she's got a great look, a big sense of fashion. I love that. Uh, Definitely bringing a lot of the Susan Sarandon. I think Susan Sarandon was great in the film, and I think a lot of that energy is being carried on to the book, which I really appreciate. It makes it easier for I think when movie watchers are transitioning on to reading comics, it makes it easier. I think, and then of course we see. I love Jaime's look. I love how long his hair is, which is weird to say, but I just think it's a real. It's all those little details that really make this feel like a fresh new story and a fresh new take. And like I mentioned, Jaime's dealing with a lot, but he's got a lot of people around him to help. And yeah, there's really cool revelations in this issue. Some really interesting um, conversations between Jaime and the people that are around him trying to help. And also, there's just people that depend on Jaime, and that's kind of like all this is the struggle that he's going through. And I really love to see how he's handling it. I think Jaime has grown so much in the last two series that while Trujillo's been at the helm. So I hope a lot of this progress. First of all, I hope Trujillo keeps making this book after this arc is over, or at least sticks around with Jaime. But I also hope that a lot of this growth sticks around in the canon because it's very very cool. All these additions that they're adding to the world of the Blue Beetle, and I think they really have something special going on, and I would hate to lose any of that stuff to continuity in the future. So if you have read this book, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. Remember, also, this book ships in both English and Spanish, which is really cool. I really love that DC is doing stuff like that. So if you pick up the Spanish version, let me know. I haven't read the Spanish version. Where I'm very lucky that DC sends me both versions of the book. But I read it in English first just to make the videos and present that. And then I go back and read it in Spanish just to see if there's little subtle changes. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Blue Beetle number 5. This is a new book from DC Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Josh Trujillo with art by Adrian Gutierrez, Will Quintana on colors, letters by Lucas Gattoni. This is chapter 5 of the Scarab War. I do love how I have to go back and check, but I feel like the logo for the Scarab War, it's going more into red than blue, or at least more ground has been covered by the red part of it. I'll have to go back and check that out. In this issue, the Blood Scarab arrives in Palmyra City. The Blood Scarab's plan finally in motion as he descends on Palmyra City. He will rip Khadija from Jaime and claim the Scarab's power for himself. Can Jaime figure out a way to stop the Blood Scarab, or will this be the end of the Blue Beetle? So yeah, pretty much we're in it to win it. Really, this is I believe the penultimate issue of this series, and things are getting very serious. Um, Stakes are high. Jaime has had to look to a lot of different places for these answers on how to combat this blood scarab. And the meanwhile, uh, Trujillo and the creative team have been giving us like the backstory and the hints of like who is this blood scarab, what do they want, why are they coming after Jaime. So it's very cool that we get to see both sides of the story here, right? Kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the logo and the colors. Like it feels like this book is as much about the blood scarab as it is about the blue beetle. Now, one thing that I really love in this book is Gutierrez's art. Uh, Let me pull up some preview art here. I just really love how the style, the lines, it's a very flowy line. A lot of big hair, very dynamic movements, and very just feels to me a little bit anime or manga with a manga feels to it, especially with the hair and the character designs. You know, like all the stuff that I really love in a very good looking stylized book. Um, and yeah, just the brightness, Quintana's colors just pop off the page very well. I love how Corey kind of stands above the panels, right? I just really like when the panels are kind of overshadowed by something else that's kind of popping out of them. It gives a little bit of a depth to the design, which is very cool. It makes you stop and there. And I also just really like the pacing of the book, especially when you're having a conversation. This could be a very straightforward scene, but the fact that um, Gutierrez and Quintana choose to do like all these different angles and do the different types of shading. Like I said, there's a color wash, the big eyes for the blue beetle, which I really like. And then zoom in on part of the face. Like all those little details are just very fun, and I think they really work for this book. And we didn't even get into like some of the bigger, more action related pages in this book, which are fantastic. Just very dynamic fights, really big explosions, very bright colors. All the scarabs, like everyone in this book, like their power because it is energy based. Like the colors just like come alive when you're looking at this book. So very cool stuff. I am very excited to see how this will play out. So I can't wait to see how we're gonna end this story, or at least this part of the Blue Beetle arc. Will Jaime be able to get revenge for Ted Cord? I have a feeling. I have a feeling that this Blood Scarab may stick around for a little while, but hopefully we can get him on the other team. I think there's a darkness there that needs to be eradicated, but I feel like that's a really cool character that should stick around. As you have seen, Jaime has built a little bit of his own team, his own Beetle family, if you will. So I think that this is a chance to expand and grow. Of course, that's also a very common anime or manga trope, right? Where a former villain kind of joins the team. So I think I would love to see something like that. So we'll see. That's just my intuition, kind of how the story's been playing out, but I could be completely wrong. We'll find out next issue, I guess. Hello, everyone. Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Blue Beetle #6. This is a new book from DC Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Josh Trujillo with art by Adrian Gutierrez, Will Quintana on colors, letters by Lucas Gattoni. This is chapter 6 of the Scarab War. This is pretty much the end of the Scarab War. First of all, I just want to say, even though the arc is complete, we will have more Blue Beetle by this team in the future, so this will continue. Now, in this issue, Blue Beetle's final showdown with the Blood Scarab begins. Only one Scarab wielder will be left standing. Uh, this issue just hits a lot of boxes. First of all, it completes the storyline. It gives us a lot more information on the true origin of the Blood Scarab. We get to see some really cool fights. So not only do we get an all-out battle, also Jaime has a really nice glow up. Once you get to that part of the book, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There's like this sick double page spread. I don't have that as preview art, but man, it is so cool. Like, just that would be such a nice massive poster. And I think learning all about the origin and the motivations of the Blood Scarab, but also how far Jaime is willing to go, and how far Kajida, who's the Beetle, who are willing to also go to protect Jaime, and also defeat the enemy. Yeah, it's really interesting. It almost feels like these characters are two sides of the same coin. And of course, with the beautiful, beautiful art that Adrian Gutierrez has been doing, some really cool sound effects and letters by Lucas Gattoni, or yeah, Lucas Gattoni on letters. So yeah, this book just really, really came together very neatly. Let's take a look at some of the preview art. And as I mentioned, the opening of this book, as you can see from the narration, we get to learn the name of the blood scarab, the beetle itself. We get to figure out why, uh, how he became to be, and what the main purpose of this beetle is. Like, why are they out for blood? Why do they want to get rid of Jaime? Uh, you know, and then also one thing that I really appreciate is the ability to demonstrate, like, just having all these characters show up. It's very cool, like switching back, back and forth, showing us very efficiently within these 2 pages, not only who's all there at this big battle, but like having the battle kind of begin. I love this page, or this panel with the hands, colliding, uh, and then just the aftermath of that, how the lack of color really demonstrates how dramatic things are getting. So it's a fun book. This is a really fun arc. If you've been waiting for whatever reason, to read Blue Beetle until the first arc is complete, this is your chance. And of course, there's some really cool covers for this. So I'm very excited about the future of this book, very excited about the future of these characters. And I think that we'll be seeing some really interesting stuff, specifically because of the way that this book ends. So I don't want to spoil anything, but you guys let me know if you have read this issue. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments.
Oh, I just it, if you were in the position where they came to you and said, "Okay, we're going to have Jaime take over the Justice League because we've lost that team," uh, let's just say the Trinity is gone, and
Sure.
Jaime can run the Justice League. Who would be on that team for you if you could write it?
Oh man, it's hard to do a Blue Beetle, any Blue Beetle on the Justice League and not think about Justice League International. So I feel like you'd have to bring in some of Ted's friends, right?
Yeah.
But who are my favorites on the JLI? It's like Fire and Ice. I feel like it's not the Justice
Yes.
League without them. Or like Booster and Ted would be kind of fun too. But I like these new characters. I'm spoiled because I like my new characters. So like I'd
Yeah.
like to bring like the Yellow Beetle, Dynastis, maybe have her pop in, Jamara, or and then I like other, I love random characters. Like one character I'm really desperate to write for right now is a Rocket from the Milestone books.
Oh, cool.
So it's like
Yeah.
I always thought that she was so cool, and she's great in Young Justice, the TV show. So I was like, there's something here. I feel like she hasn't gotten her great story yet, and like I definitely want to get her closer to that.
Oh, cool.
Are those milestone characters more difficult to use because milestone's kind of its own little thing, like legally, or how does
I
that work?
haven't really asked, honestly. I was like, it's for some of these team ups, I have like a 20 name long list of characters that like if we get enough time, I'm gonna do those team ups. And like Rocket's on that list, but like I don't know if there's special rules for them or anything. I think right now they're trying to build up those characters like Static and stuff in like their
Yeah.
own world and then like start to filter it in. Just like we're doing in Palmyra City, I feel like they're doing that in like what is it? It's Detroit for like Static, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said the name. You pronounced the name Dynastis, because I'm a I'm first language is Spanish, so I didn't know how to pronounce that really when I was reading it. I would just say it in my head, like every time I would say it differently. Like Xiomara is a name I've heard before,
Yeah.
but I didn't know like her superhero name. So that's really cool. Like, and I like those characters a lot. Like, obviously they've gone through quite a journey since they were first introduced to where we are now. But yeah, it's forming out to be quite a formidable team that Jaime's kind of assembled. And I feel like wherever we're going, he's gonna need the support.
Oh, for
I
sure.
Yeah, I got a chance to read issue 7, and I won't go into anything.
Cool.
But I mean, it's a beautiful issue with guest artists that have been announced. But from there, like, you know, I don't really even know where we're gonna go, but I'm pretty excited for it. But yeah, next issue is make sure to pick up 7, the Kif Giffen tribute, which you'll see a lot of love there as well. So
Yeah, we've got some great artists. You know, we have our Adrian Gutierrez is around. You know, he's still in the book in issue
Yeah,
7.
So good.
But because of like we're doing some time travel. We're going to some different eras in continuity, and we're kind of like spotlighting all these cool characters and teams that Keith Giffen worked on over the years. So we get to visit kind of the greatest hits. And so we have like Coley Hamner comes back and does a Blue Beetle moment set in El Paso. I won't tell much more than that. But we've got like Natasha Bustos, who just did the Fire and Ice book. She's taken us to the Justice League International days. And we've got Howard Porter, which I don't think we've announced where he's taken us yet. So I'm going to keep that up to myself. And then we've got Scott Collins doing Lobo. And it's just like, it is a wild book. And it's like, it was a big undertaking to get all those people organized. So like, kudos to DC and like all the thanks for them wanting to do something special for Keith.
always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here on the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.